peanut butter on my chocolate.
James Patterson is a funny human.
Sen ne olurmuş? Engel olurum. Hadi ol da görelim.
Elliot, you're gonna be late. Have a great day.
Oh man, Nukie.
Hello.
Hello.
Yay, we made
We
it.
did it. We made it.
6
Well,
movies.
That's it, guys. Goodbye. Good to see you.
Okay, it's been cool. It's been great.
Yeah, I didn't realize we were doing the short show tonight. Okay, see you, everybody.
It's weird that Dan watched Nukie and is like, you know what? I don't want to spoil that experience by talking about it. I just want to marinate.
It was a prank on all of the people who watched it. Hey everyone.
My apologies. First off, for anyone who did watch Nukie, we told you not to, but my apologies if you did. But Dan, set things up right.
Elliot, you've been telling people to not watch Nukie for over a decade now.
For years.
I think you've only increased the visibility of this.
Oh, it's a real Streisand effect situation. No.
Yeah. Hey, this is FlopTV. Thanks for joining us for our final one of this season. I think we're pretty sure we're going to do more after a short break.
Hey, let's see how this one goes, buddy.
That's right. It could all fall apart in the final moments.
Yeah. I mean, like a regular Flophouse episode in that way. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We watched Nukie, Elliot's second choice for second worst movie he's ever seen. After, of course, Slow Bullet, a movie that I don't think anyone could even lay their hands on.
It's a very hard movie to find, and that's a good thing. We don't need to talk about Slow Bullet, but Slow Bullet is for anyone who's wondering, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. It is a movie that was produced by, I believe, by my understanding, was a Florida video store that paid for some employees to make a movie, and it is about a Vietnam veteran readjusting to society, and the battle flashback
like
scenes.
Deer Hunter?
Yeah, in some ways. If the battle flashback scenes were shot clearly in a public park as regular car traffic went by behind the camera, because you can hear it the entire time.
That happens in Deer Hunter?
No. Yes, exactly. But this is Nukie, the second worst movie I've ever seen. Which we should mention, we should get right off the top. The FlopTV curse has struck again. Right before we talked about Hamburger the Motion Picture, that film star Dick Butkus passed. And right before talking about Nukie, just a few days ago, Glynis Johns, one of the stars of Nukie, also passed at the age of 100. Her New York Times obituary. Her New York Times obituary mentioned Mary Poppins, and it mentioned A Little Night Music. It did not mention Nukie, which I felt like was an egregious oversight.
Weird. Sad to lose her. Terrific in Mary Poppins and other things. But we'll get on to Nukie in a little bit. Before that, though, well, let me lay out the way it happens. There's a presentation that falls upon me today. Then we talk about the movie for a while, and then we're going to take a few questions from people who are here. If you want to ask a question, there's a Q&A button, and we have someone moderating, pulling out stuff. But before we do that, we're starting off. So since this is the season finale, I decided to do something a little different for my presentation. I did the obvious thing for a man who has never written a song in his life, and has, by all accounts, a pleasant enough singing voice, but maybe not for songs that he just wrote the melody for on his own, not knowing what he's doing.
Keep piping it.
And I put together a song suite covering all of our time here on FlopTV this season. And so, Matt, why don't you just go ahead and roll the video?
When we were young, 6 months ago, we started the journey of this Flophouse show.
Oh, it's so young.
We mastered beasts through the porthole of time. On the wings of wings, we made our climb. We saw Kodo and Podo, even though Kodo died.
Really going in detail through
the
Beastmaster.
Film. Why is he alive? The hot lady from Superman 2 gave us strength to go on.
Wow, yeah.
She tried on clothes in the Sunset Strip in LA, Amazon.
I'm loving it, but how long is the song?
Like why everyone wants to cleave my bosom. Ask me, it cleaves just fine by itself.
But then what about Cool World? Is it really that cool? Should I pack up this fool world and join Holly there too? 'Cause you know that I would if I could hang with Brad Pitt and Nails in a world of frenetic cartoon violence and Kim Basinger tales. With Gabriel Byrne by my side, we'd roam over the land. Like our sex was on wheels, my friend. Why not come take my hand and dive into plots that make no sense, and heroes that are dense, and bosoms so immense that you have no defense.
Noids do not have sex with doodles.
An intermission to the song.
All these bad movies are making me hungry. I need a hot dog and a hamburger. A duet of tender meaty treats before we go
really
any further. Give me a slab of flame-broiled meat and a juicy frankfurter. My blood meat level's far too low. It needs an inverter. Wait, hot dogs about skiing? I don't care about skiing. Even if you add boobs, this much skiing is rude, and hamburger is racist and homophobic too. And did I mention all the racism? Fat phobic for you. Still it briefly finds some worth in a pickle that gives birth.
Oh yeah.
Hot dog says it's a movie. Hamburger says it's a motion picture, but look into your heart, look into your soul. Ask yourself this part, are they really
on with the show?
Over the top.
The intermission's over, okay.
Under some pressure, behind the wheel of a semi-truck, under the gun, next to his young kid, soft-hearted Stallone, looking for luck. Is Lincoln Hawk lifted up upon the wings of Hauser? The bottom is where we began, now we're over the top. On the day we met, so optimistic. Although X can vex, things aren't that simplistic. If Sever could ever just see what she means to me, the two of us as friends, don't be unrealistic. Don't sever our ties. Don't be sadistic.
I have to admit, I forgot we watched this movie.
When X marks the spot, I go ballistic. And then there's Nukie. Why to watch Nukie? Elliot, you tried to warn us about Nukie. We did it all for the Nukie. Now we have to watch Nukie. Talk about Nukie. Why, Nukie?
Oh no! It's Captain Beefheart song all of a sudden.
Well, there you go.
Excellent work, Dan. Excellent work. That really was your magnum opus. Yeah.
It was. I think I saw that on 120 Minutes back in the day.
Okay, well.
Beautiful work. Beautiful.
So you recorded that while you were sick, right? Because you've been sick for like the last.
This predates being sick, although my voice wouldn't show it. It's a little blown out because I did all the takes and I'm like, those were pretty good. And I listened to it and I'm like, I'm not doing it again. It's fine.
That's the commitment we here at the Flophouse have.
Yeah.
So I think that was lovely. I think it's time for us to talk about Nukie.
Oh,
now, Elliot, you've watched this movie how many times?
This had to have been at least my 4th viewing of a movie I don't like, and that makes me upset when I watch it.
I just have like a quick question. You can probably answer this.
Sure.
What?
So here, if you want to, we can go through the movie itself. I have my notes right here. But first, so my history with Nukie. Nukie was introduced to me by a friend of the podcast, Eric Marsazak, who was a big champion of it for many years. As a piece of garbage. He lent me his copy. List. Yeah, he lent me his VHS copy, not knowing that years from now he'd be able to sell it for thousands of dollars for some reason. And I remember it was a real come to reality moment when I was watching it by myself in my bachelor apartment, being like, what am I doing with my life? Like, why am I doing this? So of course, then I watched it multiple more times. We did a live screening of it at his theater, Juvie Hall, his comedy theater that I performed.
Was that super well attended?
It was okay attended, not great. And there was one other time I had to watch it because I used to do
see like a story that follows all the people who were there that night and what they're doing.
It's just like the Velvet Underground, man. Not a lot of people came to see it, but everyone went out and made a piece of shit afterwards. Everyone who saw that movie took a big dump right later that week. And then I had to watch it again when I was putting together the presentation I used to do at live shows about Nukie to make sure I had the details right. And then I watched it again this week for this show. So that's four times.
I feel like that presentation you did for Nukie was the genesis of all of our pre-show bits. Like that was,
I think so.
That started it all.
Presentation already, and
So when I do some dumbass shit, it's Elliot's fault.
Yep. And although I feel like Dan has ratcheted up the level that we all have to meet. This is
we have to write original songs now. Fuck that.
Yeah, this game of sexual one-upsmanship that we've been playing through the form of live presentations has just entered a new level of danger.
I'd rather do like small little bits and pieces of work on a project over the course of several days, and then be able to just sit back and relax when it's time.
Yeah. Don't have to. Yeah, you just get to.
Well, guys, should we? But let's talk about what goes on in your Nukie.
Yeah.
What goes on here? Anyway, that's the Beatles song about Nukie.
Doesn't even rhyme with heart. The word you're replacing.
No. But let's talk about Nukie, shall we? Yeah. As the sun sets over what I think was a pre-end of apartheid South Africa where they shot it. I'm not entirely sure, but I think so. So there's a lot wrong with Nukie. But anyway, Nukie begins in media res, as Stuart would like to say, with 2 points of light flying through space. These are the alien brothers, Nukie and Miko. And curious Miko, he's too curious about this little blue planet that's flying by. He zooms too close to Earth and crashes in Florida, where he is picked up by the Space Foundation, a government research branch that in some of the stock footage used does have NASA branding on its trucks, but is...
they all have South African accents.
Yes, and that's true, but it is the United States of America. This is made very clear. And the scientists track a second object, which we know as Nukie, as it crashes in Africa, and they send out Dr. Eric Harvey, played by Steve Railsback of The Stuntman, to investigate. This is when we start getting a lot of voiceovers only during the Space Foundation sections. Every scene at the Space Foundation starts with a voiceover that tells us the date and that nothing much happened that day. Dan, are you yes, Stu?
There's,
Well,
I feel like this was the moment that I'm like, okay, this is a real movie. Is when the head of like the doctor in charge is on the phone. And
Dr. Glenn, yeah.
he's like, be wary of radiation. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So
a lot of the disconnectedness of this I chalk up to, not heavy research. This is just what Wikipedia tells us, the gospel according to Wikipedia. But like, a lot of this movie was shot later. Like the guy who like financed it, bought it, kind of based on the
I think based on
poster.
the poster, which shows an alien running from a pickup truck full of
Yeah,
animals.
and then he said that when he got it, there was a bunch of like racism against black people, and it was just and it was just generally bad in a lot of other ways. So they cut all that stuff out, and then they had like 40 minutes or something. Like, well, we got to go back and shoot more of Nukie. So I wonder if like some of these scenes being disjointed are part of that.
It might. I mean, the movie is not one that follows what you would call a standard 3-act structure in a lot
Okay.
of ways. It's more of a cyclical structure of the same thing happening over and over again in the two parallel storylines of Nuki and Miko. We'll get into it because Miko is now the subject of a research project codenamed Lightball, which and let's just describe Miko. To me, he looks like a giant melting baby. What does he look like to you guys? This is Miko we're talking about. What does it describe him?
I know that
Miko looks
it might
kind
be
of
a
like
little weird.
Nukie.
I've never actually seen a melting baby, so I can't really get involved with that one.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Okay.
He does kind of look like if like someone was to make a sculpture of a baby out of earwax. I would
Yeah,
imagine
I could
it
see
looked kinda
that.
like
In the
that.
chat, I'm seeing that someone has said, this is Thomas has said Miko looks deep fried, and Winfield says that he looks like a poop golem. Those are all great descriptions.
These are all true. I would say he looks like E.T. but better.
Well, they're clearly going for like E.T. ugly cute. That was the thing everyone said when E.T. came out. Oh, he's so ugly that he's cute. But E.T. is not ugly.
Yeah.
He's very cute. Aside from the fact that we don't know where
He's
he
the kind of
poops
guy
from.
that no one else in your class likes, but you like him.
Yeah, exactly. But we've established we don't need to establish that we don't know where ET poops from, and we don't know if Dan has a butt. We talked about that in a previous regular Flophouse episode.
Come on.
But they're going for
the
that kind of thing.
accusation was that I don't know where my butt is, Elliot.
Well, that was you refused to answer the question, sir. But it's so the but they're going for that with Nuki and Miko. They're going for ET, and they're getting instead like what they are, which is an off-brand generic rip-off ET. So the research team at the Space Foundation is led by Dr. Glenn, who is bald. There's also two lady scientists, Pamela, the nice lady scientist, and the mean lady scientist, Dr. Barbara Rhinestone. Now,
you would think they would switch those names.
And the Space Foundation is essentially two rooms. There's one room that's a whole wall of monitors with primitive computer graphics. We're going to meet that computer later. His name is Eddie. And also there's a kind of a cloudy, misty, foggy chamber where Miko is hooked up to tubes and wires and is essentially tortured for most of the film. Meanwhile, that's in America. Meanwhile, in Africa, our titular hero, our titular nukester, wakes up groaning, "Where's Miko? Miko, Miko." He says Miko's name like 1,000 times.
I feel like hearing his names.
Yeah, he doesn't understand his body. It's not his normal body. He's like a lawn gnome made out of turds, I guess is what I would say. So, Poop Golem is right. Someone in the chat is saying VT had a cameo in the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Yes, again, that's a great description of what Nukie would look like. Anyway, the scientists are baffled by Miko. In the movie, I'm skipping ahead to like
That's
the 15
weird.
or 20-minute mark.
Baffled by him.
He's Pamela calls him a little boy made out of pure energy, which is as good a description of any, I guess. But he shows brainwaves, a heartbeat, and breathing without having any internal organs. And one of my favorite lines in the movie is when they're like, he's breathing and showing brainwaves, and Dr. Rhinestone, the mean doctor, goes, we don't even know if this thing is animal, mineral, or vegetable. And it's like, well, if he's breathing, then he's probably not a mineral.
Yeah,
like, come on.
We can narrow it down a little bit.
I think we can discard mineral from it.
I appreciate that level of scientific dedication that she's like, you know what? We're going to do every possible check.
Let's assume nothing.
Until we get a control in here. We got to prove some hypotheses.
Get me a rock, a ferret, and a dandelion, and we're going to see which one of these, which one of those this thing is most like.
Is this like Nukie or Miko?
Miko, Dan. They don't know Nukie exists. They only know Miko. So Miko is so weak that when Nukie bounces his voice off the moon to talk to Miko, Miko can barely speak.
Yeah, that's also true for me, man.
And Miko overhears the scientists mention America and says that Nukie needs to free him from America. Nukie assumes that America is a person and wanders around Africa asking giraffes and rhinoceroses if they're America, causing them to run away
she's
from
in fucking Barbie, right?
Yeah, well, yes, America is a person in Barbie.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
true.
I get,
That's a good point.
I get what
But
you're
Nukie
saying.
doesn't know that. Remember, this came out before Barbie came out.
Yeah.
We didn't know.
But maybe, well, yeah, I was gonna say maybe they watched Superstore, but also again,
Again, that would be after Nukie. Yeah, and
Yeah.
also
Ugly
what was the other
Betty.
show? Yeah, Ugly Betty. After this, but I think it's fair to say that Nukie is not familiar with any of her work.
Okay.
Again, he's
What
also
about the
from
band
another
America?
planet. No, I don't think he's familiar with the band.
70s.
I mean, I'm sure there's a radio signal still flying through space of some of their hits, which would be like, what were their songs again?
I have no
The
idea.
whole soundtrack for Last Unicorn.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, so that radio station that's playing the soundtrack to Last Unicorn, I'm sure that that signal is still going off in space. Nukie might have picked it up. We see a lot of scenes of Nukie and Miko just whining their names to each other, and it sounds like this: Dan, you be Nukie, and I'll be Miko. Okay, no, I'll be Nukie, you be Miko. I'm Nukie. Miko.
Nukie.
Miko.
Nukie.
Miko.
Nukie.
That's a lot of the movie. That's like 65% of the movie. It's just that. We learned that
movie's easy.
Yeah.
Just get two names.
Get two names, repeat them over and over. I mean, it's basically that old George Marsh or Martha, the old soap opera romance parody, you know. So the scientists at the Space Foundation, they're using their computer, Eddie, to test Miko's reactions to various forms of torture. They cut him with lasers, they inject him with narcotics, and they're like, he shows reactions similar to pain. And it's like, yeah, I get that makes sense.
This is what
Again,
science is.
That's good science, yeah. Pamela does not approve, nice lady scientist, but Rhinestone demands they continue. And every time we see the Space Foundation again, there's that voiceover, which is like, June 14th, Friday. Nothing much happened today, and then it goes into the like they're still putting painful things in Miko. Eventually, Nukie encounters our other heroes, two twin boys, Taki and Tico, who are from a local village. He tries to introduce himself, and Taki and Tico literally walk away and say to each other, "Let's not tell anybody about this."
Let's not tell anyone we saw Nukie.
And Nukie sees some zebras.
They grew up to be the red letter media guys.
Yeah. Nukie sees some zebras, and that image is transmitted on the screens of the Space Foundation. He has a mental link now with Eddie through Miko. And Dr. Glynn tells Pamela, don't get too emotionally involved with U.S. government property. It can be dangerous, which kind of hints at a plot line that never really comes to pass. While taking a nap, Nukie discovers that his superpowers are back. He can turn invisible and fly around as a ball of light, but he crashes. He sees his reflection and he hates his current body. And this is one of the moments, like, this movie feels to me like an accurate, in some ways, representation of what it's like to be a kid who has low self-esteem. Where Nukie is like, I can't do anything right. I can't handle this. I hate the way I look. Like, it's terrible. Like, I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to be feeling those things.
Let's dig into this a little bit, though. So they're normally beings of light and energy.
Yeah.
So they've taken these on Earth. And apparently, inadvertently, they it's not. They didn't choose these bodies.
No, these are the bodies that their energy forms took for some reason when they landed on Earth. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that makes more sense because, like, it's not like they're disguising themselves as something that exists on Earth.
No, it's not like the Transformers being like, oh, everyone's riding around in cars. We'll be cars now. Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be a way to trick people into climbing inside our bodies.
Are you're implying that the Transformers get sexual pleasure out of them?
Yes, I am.
Do we need to stop? Do we need to save the Allspark? You're sparking my all right now. Yeah, whatever, man.
Sparking my all.
Yeah. So we meet. Okay, and this is when we meet Sister Anne, Linus Johns, rest in peace, formerly of Much Better Things, a kindly nun in the nearby village of Arapi, and she is using the radio with a filthy drunken shopkeeper named the Colonel. The Colonel is played by an actor named Ronald France, who is in one of my favorite movies, The Fall. So, hey, that's a link between one of my favorite movies and one of my least favorite movies. And the radio tells...
Just goes
Legends of the Fall, exactly. Yeah.
No one is beyond redemption, guys. You know, you can be in a Nukie, you can be in The Fall.
That's the life of an actor, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you're making, Unforgiven, And sometimes you're making the second movie where you're a trucker who has an orangutan. You know,
sometimes you're making Nukie, and sometimes you're making the Fall Guy, and the quality isn't that much different, but one is better than the other.
Sometimes you're making Nukie, and sometimes you're making Dookie, because you're a member of Green Day, who was also a Nukie, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do some research on that, on whether Green Day was in it. So anyway, the radio tells them, hey, Dr. Eric Harvey is coming. We have barely seen this guy, and he has gotten such a buildup. The characters are constantly talking about him. Pamela is always like, Dr. Harvey wouldn't approve of doing this. And it's like, he doesn't really seem to care about much of anything when we finally meet him. He's pretty laid back. Anyway, Nukie, what a goof. He accidentally causes an earthquake and a windstorm, which causes the villagers to panic. They flee into the corporal's store, where we meet one of the other heroes of the movie, Charlie, a pet chimp who wears a red sleeveless shirt and later on cannot stop talking about his shirt. Yes, that's right. He can talk. He's constantly chattering away. No, but Nukie can understand him.
Now, am I wrong in saying, like, the other animals cannot talk to Nukie, but
except for the baboons?
Okay, the baboons can.
It seems like primates can talk and other animals cannot talk in the, let's face it, mostly somewhat quasi-racist.
The cosmology of Nukie.
Exactly, nukemology. Yeah. So
do you think all of the dialogue from the animals was ADR'd in, or do you think they had a guy on set like doing
it had, well, based on the fact that the animals will abruptly talk about whatever they're holding at the moment, it seems to me that they're just dubbing it in after the footage was shot. Like Charlie will be like, candy, look at this candy. And
yeah, it's
red like my shirt.
Impression where they say their name first.
America's Funniest Home Videos style, just sort of like they got the guy into improv over something.
I think that's exactly what it is. I mean, so Nukie goes to talk to the king of the baboons, who's like, I've never heard of America, but you should go talk to Charlie the chimp, my cousin. And the baboon just walks off camera going, I've got other stuff to do. And it's like, well, clearly the baboon walked off camera at that point. They just stuffed it in. And Nukie is so anxious. He's so overwhelmed. Something we haven't mentioned yet is his nose is so drippy through the whole movie. There's constantly a patch of snot and mucus coming out of his nose. Guys, he's not real. They didn't have to put that there. Someone made the choice of putting that there.
This is, of course, a nod to the War of the Worlds. Nukie, as an alien, has no immunity against Earth viruses.
So the common cold is just making snot blast out of his nose, as it would for humans too. To be honest,
it's clearly a COVID reference.
Again, Stuart, that happened way after this. I think, Stuart, just because you're unstuck in time and sometimes find yourself on the human zoo in Tralfamadore with Montana Wild Hack, doesn't mean everything else is unstuck in time.
Yeah, no, okay.
What about Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants? Could they have seen that?
I don't think so. How would that apply to this? Tell me, how would that apply to this movie, though?
I just reminded about being unstuck in time. Other America Ferrera projects,
Yeah, but they're not unstuck in time in Tristan of the Traveling Pants. They're unstuck in pants, right?
I don't know that much about those pants.
Magically can fit all sorts of bodies.
I think we're getting off track.
Yeah, we need to talk about Nukie. So these two villagers threaten Nukie. So Nukie zaps one with a green lightning bolt that freezes him in place. And the village witch doctor, Sangoma, he says, this happened because of a bad god. That's when Dr. Eric finally arrives in his helicopter, and Sister Anne is like, you need to leave right now. And later we learn that she's worried that if people find out there's an alien there, the place will get mobbed, too many outsiders, it'll destroy this wonderful world that everybody lives in.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nukie talks to Charlie. Charlie, again, just wants to talk about his red shirt and candy, and Nukie knocks over a stack of cans.
It is unkind to Nukie. Like, Nukie is constantly complaining about the sun being too hot, the water being too watery, the animal's not talking to him enough. Like, this is not a place for Nukie's kind. He needs to get
and Nukie is dealing with it. Yeah, he's dealing with it poorly. It is much like traveling with Dan to a Flophouse live show, where whatever happens is a matter of extreme anxiety and complaint. I remember once we went to do a show at Earlham College, Dan and Stuart's alma mater, and the parking lot we had been told to meet our handler at was not the same. They didn't give us the same name as the parking lot was listed as on the map. And Dan was having so much trouble comprehending this information. And Nukie is like that 24/7 all the time. Now I understand it. That's great art. It put me in a mindset where I understood what you were going through, Dan, because it's just like Nukie. Yeah. Meanwhile, Nukie saves Tico and Toki from a lion. And they agree to help Nukie find America if he'll talk to Sangoma and show he's not a bad god. They're friends now. And at the Space Foundation, this is when Miko makes, I think, the strangest choice in the film, which is that he walks out of his torture room to talk to Eddie the computer, but he does not continue to leave the Space Foundation facility in order to not be there anymore. And Eddie the computer then hypnotizes Miko into falling asleep and then laughs maniacally. That's right. Let's break this down. This is a government computer that is evil. He laughs like this, wah ha ha ha, and has the power of hypnosis. Guys, do we have these? Is this a thing that exists?
I feel that's my favorite stuff in this movie is the scenes with Miko and Eddie the computer.
Yeah.
He's like, good night, whatever that means. And I'm like, who would know that if you know everything else?
Yeah, if you're able to have this conversation, and you're apparently a sentient computer who's having a back and forth, but you're like, whatever that means. Ugh. No, I love that too, where it was just like this computer, like, why did they program it to laugh evilly?
Why would they do that? It does. And what person installing the system is like, now you're not going to use this too much, but Eddie can hypnotize people and aliens. Well, do we have to have that feature? Does it cost extra? A little bit, but you're going to be glad you have it. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. You understand? Anyway, I'll give it to you. It's part of the full Eddie package. Now, this computer, does it understand the concept of friends or feelings? No, but it does hypnotize, and it is evil. All right, this is the only contractor we're allowed to use. Federal regulations. Okay, Nukie tries to talk to Sangoma, the witch doctor, but because Nukie is, let's face it, he's a fuck up. He just ends up making a lot of pots of water explode and leads the villagers on a merry chase, laughing the whole time and turning invisible. And that ends abruptly. And Sangoma is like, well, this is even worse. He's still a bad god. And the only way to stop him is to send Toki and Tico, who, as far as the villagers know, have no connection to Nukie, send them into the wilderness until one of them dies and the survivor can come back. And this is when the movie takes an abrupt, hard turn, I feel like, in some ways. Sister Anne, very much appalled by the idea of sending these boys out into the wilderness until one of them dies. Luckily, the boys run into Nukie, who helps them sleep for the night. But Nukie helps them sleep by performing a disco dance, complete with fireworks. He's trying to help them sleep.
I like this part. I like this part, guys.
He's trying to help them sleep, and he puts on a fireworks show, because you know what always drowses me out? You know, always lulls me into sleep is explosions, colorful explosions above me. And then finally he bathes them with sleep rays until they go to sleep, and then he flies off. And he draws a heart in the sky.
I just realized, like, where was Nukie in relation to The Gods Must Be Crazy? Because I feel like,
oh, this is after that for sure. This is definitely after.
This is kind of like trying to be that, but instead of a Coke bottle, ET falls out of the sky.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think they saw The Gods Must Be Crazy, and they're like, here's the problem with this: there's no actual superpowered beings in it, so none of it makes sense. They totally missed the point of the movie. Now, The Gods Must Be Crazy. It's a movie that my parents used to talk about and love. I've never actually seen the whole movie. Is it incredibly racist?
I'm pretty sure, looking back, it is. I remember when it was an international hit at the time, and I was a small child, that there was like funny, lovable stuff in it. You know, I think that its heart wasn't necessarily in the wrong place overall, but yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Alonzo chimed in the chat. He said it's racist. I trust Alonzo.
Okay.
Although, as a child, I remember watching it and being like, there are animals in this, and I like animals.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of shots of just animals doing stuff, which, if you were to go with me to the gift shop at a zoo, you would know that I'm a fan of the Zoo Books collection of...
Oh, I was a big Zoo Books reader as a kid, for sure. Yeah. Now, what about Oh God, You Devil? Is that racist? I haven't seen that one either.
I mean, it implies that God is a devil.
Very what Manichean, Manichean? What's the so here's something. I want to stop at the scene for a moment, even though I know we're running. I don't want to take up talking about Nukie, but so anyone who hasn't seen my Nukie presentation, this is a particular moment that I put a lot of weight on, is Nukie performing this dance, because this is the moment when I realized, wait a minute, I'm not just watching an alien in a movie doing a stupid dance. I'm watching an actor in a costume doing a stupid dance in the middle of the night. And I'm sure they are hating it. It's a terrible experience. And in that moment, this actor is Nukie, like is fully embodying the character of someone who does not want to be there and does not like what they're doing. And that's art. You know, that's great art. So again, I'm going to say it.
And you sitting there in your bachelor's apartment, probably propped up on a pile of empty chicken boxes.
Yeah, because that's what I would do with them. I'd just toss them behind you. And
like empty 2 liters of Coca-Cola, and you're watching this on a TV that is probably not the nicest television, and you are hating the experience. And in that moment, I believe, Elliot, as you say, you are Nukie.
Yes, as I was saying, as I say in my presentation, I am Nukie too, and that is art. Yeah, exactly. So, I should have just done that presentation, except Dan's song was a million times better. It was much better. So at the Space Foundation, Eddie hits on Pamela and starts to sing to her. Later, he will be like, "What are feelings?" But here he's in love. He goes back to the village to tell them he's not a bad god. How better to show that you're not a bad god than to turn invisible and crash a motorcycle? And he makes everyone mad at him. They're just pissed at him.
Well, that shows you're a bad god.
Yeah. And the corporal is like, "Hey, maybe I can sell this Nukie alien." Okay, here we're going to get to another. This is maybe the most baffling scene in the whole movie. Eddie is bored. He lets Miko out of his chamber. Miko introduces Eddie to the idea of music. And then together, working together,
they form Eddie and the Cruisers.
Yeah, Eddie and the Cruisers. They're a huge band. Miko has to wear a mask that makes him look like a person. And he takes on the part of Eddie, which is weird because Eddie the computer's already named Eddie. And they're around for a while. Anyway, Eddie, they hypnotize Dr. Glynn, the head scientist, into living out his childhood dream of being a clown. They've read in his brainwaves that he always wanted to be a clown. This means taking his jacket, his suit jacket, tying it around his neck, and just kind of going like this. And then he takes Miko by the hand and dances him back into the torture chamber. And Miko just goes along with it. It doesn't make any sense. And then Dr. Rhinestone arrives, and she's all pissy at Dr. Glynn for being silly. And Eddie has the best line in the movie. Eddie says, "You know something, lady? You suck."
Sometimes you need a mean computer to tell you the truth.
Yeah. It's a strange moment. It's one of these things where you're like, Miko is the least important part of this scene. This is Eddie's moment. At this point, Eddie has hijacked the film. In the wild, Toki and Tico, they are off in the wild. One of them has to die. A very puppety cobra. It's it's stock footage of a snake, and then there's a puppet cobra. It bites Toki. Dr. Harvey takes Toki back to the village, and then Nukie gets shot full of tranquilizers by the corporal while Toki cries. Oh, no, Tico cries. I'm sorry, while Tico cries.
Thank you.
At the hospital, Tico tells Anne and Dr. Eric about Nukie's quest to find America. And Sister Anne says, "Eric, please don't tell anyone there's an alien here." And Eric is like, "Nope, got to do my job." He's like, "Whatever, don't care." Tico is sad, and Eddie somehow detects this and patches Tico through to Miko. And Tico tells Miko to help Nukie, but Miko is like, "Tico, only you can help Nukie. Only Tico can help Nukie," says Miko. And Miko's like, "You do it. I'm low in energy." So this is brilliant writing.
With the vessel is the one that. Hold on.
Another reference to Glynis Johns.
Really?
Star of this film and also the court jester. Yeah. Oh boy, she's all over entertainment, and Nukie is just the pinnacle at the top. Anyway, so Tico and Miko. Tico needs to help Nukie because Miko can't help Nukie. The corporal convinces Sangoma, who at that moment, this is a movie I assume is meant for children. The corporal is literally poking a caged Nukie with a red hot spear. Sangoma has heated up a spear in a fire and is poking Nukie with it as he lies in the cage. And we all know E.T. gets in a lot. His health is bad in E.T. He almost dies. It is handled so sensitively and so movingly compared to these scenes where our two aliens are just being tortured left and right. It's I guess, you know what? I'm going on a limb and just say Steven Spielberg is better than whoever made Nukie. I'll just say at making movies. At making movies. I don't know, maybe the guy made and making movies about aliens. Corporal's like,
"Give me see that director's version of The Terminal, though. It fucking crushes."
It's amazing. It's amazing. He's like, "Everyone sees Nukie, but they don't see Catch Me If You Would," my better Conman movie.
Oh, it's optional. Okay.
You don't have to catch. It's not a full-on challenge. It's like if you have the time, if it's convenient for you. So Tico and Charlie, they work together to free Nukie. Charlie, again, is the chimp. And Nukie heals Toki with his glowing powers. And then Nukie and Tico head off to find America. And Charlie says, "Goodbye, folks. See you soon." Dr. Eric has already left to go to America. But Sister Anne gets on the radio and says, "There's no alien here. That was all a lie." Tico and Nukie, they're walking through the wilderness for a long time. They spend a long time just walking hand in hand through African landscapes. And Tico is despairing. And Nukie says, "Don't ever lose hope. And if you ever don't know what to do, wish to the stars, and if it's a good wish, they'll grant it. And it's like, this is very late to be introducing this kind of magic to the movie. But that's the magic of the movies, I guess. Go back to the Space Foundation. Miko has disappeared.
Yeah, who wrote this script? Christopher Nolan, where he's like the rules of the fucking universe, but in like the climax of the movie.
At the Space Foundation, Miko has disappeared. Pamela finds him sleeping in her office, and she hides him from the guards, who kind of wink at her. They're like, we know you're hiding an alien. It's fine. Everyone loves Miko. She arranges for Dr. Eric to go back to Africa, calling him in the middle of a one-night stand. He's on a couch, and you just see women's feet on the other end of the couch, and she says, I know you're not alone, but you have to leave right now. How does she know that? How did she know what she goes, whenever he comes back from a trip out into the field, he always picks up a woman at the bar and goes to the same motel, asks for the same room. I'll just call him there. I'm his health contact, so I know what the motel is that he stays at. Anyway, she says, I have booked a trip for you to Africa. Then in voiceover, we learn that Dr. Glynn resigned, Pamela went on vacation, the project was shut down, and all the records were sent to the CIA.
I'm glad we heard about the vacation.
This is him like 45 seconds of voiceover. Nukie and Tico, they're being hunted by the corporal. The corporal is shooting at them as they steal his Jeep. I don't like any of this. They drive into a river. Nukie falls over a waterfall. Tico finds him, and clearly they just put the suit over a waterfall. And so Nukie is dying. He turns himself and Tico into flying light. He goes, just this once we can fly, and they crash almost immediately. It's so sad. It's like Midnight Cowboy. Like, it's terrible. What's happening between the two of them, And they crash in an abandoned town. Tico is like, we made it in America. It's this ruined, torn down place. He's running around going, help us, America, help us. I find this whole scene genuinely upsetting. I find it so upsetting, all of it. And eventually,
at this point, I'm like checking.
America doesn't help. Is that
this kid is so desperate that his alien friend is dying, that it's a kid actor, so I don't know what they had to do to get a performance where he seems genuinely bereft. But Stuart, what are you saying?
All right, Stuart,
And I'm checking the time clock, and there's like less than 10 minutes left, and I'm like, what?
Luckily, Tico remembers the advice that Nukie gave him. He wishes, I wish my family was here, and Sister Anne, and that Miko would find Nukie alive. Suddenly, it is nighttime. It cuts to night immediately. And Tico's family and Sister Anne just show up in a Jeep. They're there. Nukie walks over out of the shadows, alive, totally fine, nothing wrong with them. Dr. Eric choppers in with Miko, walks Miko over, crouched down like he's walking with a child, which I find very cute. The aliens reunite. They're crying. Snot's running down their faces. They're disgusting. Dr. Eric decides to stay in the village. He's like, I guess I can't go back because he, I guess, stole alien property in the United States. And before Nico and Mookie, I was going to say Nico and Mookie. Miko and Nukie can go away.
Do the right thing.
Before Charlie the chimp runs over and begs to go with them. So they all wave goodbye. And the three of them, Nukie, Miko, and Charlie the chimp, turn into balls of light and fly off into space. The end. The end of the movie. Why did they take the chimp with them? What's going on?
Because it was the nicest creature they found on Earth.
The coolest dude.
It's like the idea that the executives were like, well, but what happens to Charlie the chimp after the corporal goes away? We got to wrap up that story.
Oh boy.
So it's literally a movie where, to put it in shorter terms, two aliens to crash on Earth. One is tortured for almost the entirety of the movie. The other one uses his magic powers to get himself into stupid trouble over and over again. And they yell at each other. A kid almost dies. One of the aliens almost dies. And then the kid who didn't die makes a wish and it's fine. And everything's okay.
Yeah, no, that's a good summary.
And then they all go to the Heaviside lair together.
Yeah, guys, I'm never watching this movie. I'm sorry, I can't make it 5 times. I gotta.
I think you got one more in you.
Oh wait, guys, I'm getting the numbers. This is a huge hit, Elliot. You're gonna have to watch this.
No, the only way. Maybe
do a commentary.
If doctors came to me, and they're like, a child is dying. The only cure is for you to watch Nukie. I'm gonna have to dig deep in my soul. But it's a killing of a sacred deer type situation.
Elliot,
they're like, but you have to watch Nukie to save your family. I'm like, I don't know stuff.
You get a call from John Cena. He is doing a Make-A-Wish kid, and the Make-A-Wish kid is like, I want John Cena act out Elliot's narration of the entire movie of Nukie.
I'll be frank, Elliot, I admire your willingness to, spring into action and help this child. But also, if that happened to me, I would be like, Okay, but like, how is this helping? Like,
Dan,
prove
you
to me
can't answer that.
scientifically that
You
this
can't. It's medical science. You can't ask that kind of. But look, is it
seems suspicious?
do I fully understand how taking poop out of one person's gut and putting it in another will help them digest things better? A little bit, but I got to take it on faith that a doctor understands that
Yeah,
how
but
it's going to work.
I understand enough of that to know how it makes sense. I'm not really sure how a child will not die if you watch Nukie again, but
there's so many things I have to take on. I just have to take it on credit that gravity is proportional to mass. I can't prove that. I'll just take it. Scientists tell me. I trust the science. I trust the science on Nukie medicine, Dan. That's all I have to tell you.
Yeah, you gotta gauge the math of how much will this help somebody else versus how much will this inconvenience Dan.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's a fair point. Oh, okay.
I just want to see. I'm just genuinely like, look, I'm willing to do it. I'm just saying.
You just want to see
how the math adds
You want to
up
know that the doctor's not punking you with that. The kids, the dying child's make-a-wish was not it would trick you into watching Nukie again.
Yeah, the kid will rip off his mask and it's Nathan Fielder.
I mean, if that's it, I understand a lot more. If like this dying kid, it's like, you know, it'd be hilarious. Force somebody to watch Nukie.
Yeah, dying kids love doing bits.
It's just like Mr. Beast comes to you. He says, "Look, I'm going to make 10,000 blind children see, but you have to watch Nukie to do it. What are you going to do? What's your decision going to be?"
Yeah.
Hard to say. Okay, well, let's go on. Let's take a look. You know, we're about to give our final judgments, but to give our final judgments, of course, we have to check in one last time with our friends, the Cassettis.
Oh, I'll miss them. Yeah. Oh, it's my favorite part.
C'était bien? Ah, alors c'était mauvais?
Oui. Non.
Peut-être avez-vous raison, seul Dieu peut juger.
Mais Dieu est mort.
Mais Dieu est mort.
Alors qu'il peut passer.
Alors qu'il peut passer des jugements définitifs.
Well, of course, it's whether this is a good bad movie, a bad movie, or a movie we kind of liked. Here's the thing about Nukie for me.
Oh shit!
All right, let's see what's gonna happen. I think it feels like a fight's about to start.
Nathan, for you,
my
Nukie for me.
sleeves on this one.
No, I look watching it alone for the purposes of this show. It just slid off my brain. Like Elliot said that he's seen it like 6 or 7 times. I've seen it
4 times, Dan. Okay. Please don't make me sound like more of a loser than I am, or more of a monster than I am.
I've seen it once, and I'm not quite sure I've actually seen it because it was so hard to focus on Nukie. That being said, I think if you saw this with a group of people in the right circumstances, this would be a fun bad movie to watch together, because like there's a lot of slow parts. You can just sort of chit chat with people, and then like something really bizarre happens and you can all laugh.
It's you're with John Cena, a Make-A-Wish kid,
yeah,
Fielder we talked about, like all these guys.
Yeah, Nathan Fielder's there, sure, yeah.
So, you know, for me alone, it's a bad, but like out in the world, like if you're a normal person who only does this with friends and a lot of like drinks or something, like I could say it could be a good bad.
Dan, it didn't bother me when you liked Wild Mountain Time. It didn't bother me when you liked the other stuff. That was
kind of liked. I'm saying this is objectively bad, but it could be funny to watch with people. There's a reason we have 3 categories.
I guess
switching the category and putting this in.
I will say, this was less bad than I expected.
Okay, I have been hyping it for years. Yeah.
But I will say that there's also like there's just the sound mixing is so bad. I couldn't understand anything. Yeah. I needed to watch. Somebody went in and did captions for it somewhere, right? Maybe I'll watch it again with captions.
Yeah,
don't.
I'll fix
that was a big problem. Yeah.
But no, this is. I mean, I got a couple of laughs. I do think that I think there's moments that are good, bad, but really it's a bad movie. It's like sad and gross, and I can't hear it.
I think I'm gonna. It's a bad movie to me. I think, you know what? It may. No, it's still kind of the second word. That part of the reason I think it's so bad is that it's a movie that I find so unpleasant. Partly because it's a kids movie and the characters are going through so much genuine unpleasant trauma. And so I think, reasonable people can differ on whether it's how bad it is, but it is very bad. And I think there are better choices if you're going to sit and watch. If you and your friends who like to watch bad movies together have gotten so numb to the normal good bad movie that you need this kind of thing, then you need to stop watching bad movies. You need to start watching good movies for a while. Watch nothing but good movies. Get your tolerance back up again.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do. So that when you watch a bad movie again, you're like, "What is this?" As opposed to eating the hard stuff.
Jesus moment. You're like, if you find yourself watching Nukie, brother.
This is when it's like the moment when you're at an orgy and you're like, yawn. Then you need to stop for a little while. You need to go do something else for a little bit. If the thrill is gone, that you need to go that far. So
when you're tired of Nukie, you're tired of life. That's Samuel Johnson said.
It's the exact opposite of that. I mean, when you're desirous of Nukie, So, but thank you for watching this movie with me and showing me that Dan kind of liked it, and
I mean, you knew that.
I said bad. I said it could be good with the crowd.
Dan is slowly turning into Armand White, where he's like, could be good, yeah.
Armand White, but with like a bit of the guy who's super horny for Mrs. Incredible. Which guy's that?
That was Anthony Lane, right? Yeah.
Dan's a mix of those guys.
Yeah.
You could be worse. You could be Harry Knowles.
Yeah, that's worse right there. Sure.
Yeah, I'm just horny in private.
Not that private. I mean, we're all aware of it.
It's on the
I mean, I'm not harassing people with my horny.
No, you're not harassing people. You're just masturbating to Pixar characters like Anthony Lane. That's fine.
I mean, Sully's hot.
Okay, a lot of people talk about Sully. What about Mike? Come on.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
He's cute. He's a cute little guy,
And Sully saved all
work
those
out his
souls.
legs, man.
So. Yeah. No, that's the thing. It's all about proportions too. You got to take the whole package. Can't divide people up into parts.
Let's move on and take a couple of questions. We also have a little intro for this.
Who dares question the all-knowing Flophouse House Cat? Ignore those guys down there. Ask your questions and get out of here.
Seriously, folks, we do not have all night. All right, we've got some great questions. Now, here's something that I've been told is a lot of people want to know about what happened to my finger. As you can see, there's a Band-Aid on it. Let's just get that out of the way. Today was a big scouting day for my family. We had my younger son's first Lion Scouts meeting, and both of my sons, were both Cub Scouts, they're getting ready for the Pinewood Derby, so I was helping them with a little hacksaw cutting their wooden blocks that will someday be little cars. And so I got a boo-boo on my finger from cutting into that wood,
Yeah, because you were drinking while you're doing it, like
yeah. Because I told them I was going to do it. They owed me 2 6-packs of Mike's Hard Lemonade, and so I made my way through those.
What a Saturday!
Where they had to use all their fucking mad money to buy you that shit?
Yeah. I said I gave you that allowance for a reason, so you could eventually buy me this.
So teaching you about an exchange of goods for services. Nothing's free.
Let me teach you about capitalism. Let's call this a barter moment. So anyway, here's a good question from Caleb. Has there ever been a good ET clone? And I don't think they mean like ET's clone was evil in ET2 extraterrestrial or something like that.
Well, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I wonder, but we all know about Mac and Me, a bad ET clone. Is there a good one?
Well, that's what I was gonna like. This is ET is the movie that keeps on giving in terms of like bad movie, like because Mac and Me and Nukie are both legendary ones, and then also there's
Mac and Me does have
Homadi or something like that, the Turkish ET one,
yeah,
which I put on a clip of, but up front.
But Mac and Me is branding with McDonald's. That makes it good, right?
Yeah, that's what makes any
good.
movie
That's
good.
true. Yeah,
Branding.
it is the screen debut of a young Nikki Cox. Sure, okay. Yeah.
I'm admitting something. This is a safe space. I have never seen Lilo and Stitch. Is that an ET clone?
It's kind of an ET. I mean, I wouldn't call it a clone.
It's a similar. It's a very similar one. I think that
it's very good.
It's a twist on it, and there Stitch is like a monster, like a cute monster, but a monster. So I would call it that. In the comments in the chat, we're getting some good suggestions. Starman as essentially ET but sexy, I guess. Batteries Not Included, which I have not seen since I was a kid. But that's essentially ET also.
The thing is, dude, there's a point where one of them little robots gets cooked like a hamburger. It's awesome.
Yeah, some cheese gets thrown on it.
Yeah, so I mean, an ET didn't have the guts to do that. Show me the part in ET where ET gets a piece of cheese thrown at his head. Doesn't happen.
He would love it.
He would love it. So that's your answer for you. Here's a question for Stuart.
Does species count? Oh, brother.
So Stuart, have you read There and Back Again, An Actor's Tale by Sean Astin? This is asked by Emily.
I was just recently gifted There and Back Again, An Actor's Tale by Sean Astin from a longtime bar regular. Well, I guess occasionally. He shows up like once a year. We talk movies.
Yeah, we're going to fact check this.
Yeah. Wait.
You got receipts.
Oh,
there it is. There and Back Again, An Actor's Tale.
So I haven't started reading it yet.
Who gave it to you? Sorry, I interrupted you before you actually said.
It is signed John Buddy Big Guy, a.k.a. Nick. Because the thing is, I'm going to tell you something. If you come to my bar once a year, even if you've been coming for years, I will remember your drinks. I will remember things about your life. I will probably not remember your name.
Oh, so John Buddy, Big Guy.
His name is Nick, yeah. But those are all names that I have called him because, guys, my memory's not great. I drink.
Hey, you don't have to. I mean, you're amazing. You're like a savant as far as I'm concerned. I wish I was better at it. I'll like stare at people I've met 5 times on the. And I feel bad, like I want to be the kind of person who, but I'm bad at that.
So Dan doesn't even remember if he's read There and Back Again, An Actor's Tale by Sean Astin.
I think
he's like by John Astin. No, that's his dad.
Gave me a copy though.
Okay.
What's the next question?
Next question is Nukie and Slow Bullet are the worst movies Elliot has ever seen. Guilty as charged. What's the worst movie Dan and Stu have ever seen? This is asked by Anthony and Nicholas. So, Stu, Dan, what is the worst movie each of you has ever seen? Or maybe it's the same movie.
So this is different than most hated because we've got a standard answer for that one, but like worst, like actually worst in the making of. And I don't know, that one's hard. That's hard to like. There's something like Love on a Leash is like pretty bad on the level of just basic filmmaking,
basic craft. Yeah, the language of film.
The audio will completely cut out when people aren't talking without any room tone or anything else,
or music or anything. Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. The thing is, like the truly bad stuff, though, is stuff that I'm just like, even I'm like, life's too short. Why would I spend my time on this?
What you actually watch makes me feel like, I don't know. I think you're going to get there at a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, even for me, there's only so many hours in the day, Elliot.
Dan is speeding through bad movies at a velocity that is unhealthy for most humans.
I mean, I did the first Letterboxd logged movie of mine for this year was Side Boob, 1/2 star, which our friend and tech person for the show, Matt Carmen, showed at a virtual bad movie night that was on Twitch. So.
What is it? What I've never heard of it. So until you showed me the screen grab of your Letterboxd movies for the year,
it's a lot less sleazy than it sounds. Like it's not, like that's a title to draw you in. As
it's
a movie,
clickbait title, as opposed to a masturbate title.
Yeah, as a movie, it's like a shitty like version of. Imagine a movie that someone who saw a bunch of Kevin Smith and Swingers made, like a fan of that. Those filmmakers, but without any of the ability, made that movie, but for some reason they made it in 2019, and they sort of also crossed it with Before Sunrise. That's what this movie was.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. And what about you, Stu? What's the first movie that comes to mind for you? Because we should
It's
wrap
always
up soon.
40 Days and 40 Nights. I know
it
kind of blends in with Most Hated, but it's terrible. Don't watch it. In fact, rent it from your local VHS video store and destroy it.
Yeah, Stu, I hate to tell you, Blockbuster went out of business so that nobody would be able to get those videos anymore.
Yeah,
40 Days and 40
Nights. That's their fucking scam.
Yeah.
The 40 Days and 40. Josh Hartnett paid them off.
So this is a question from Kitty, last name withheld. Dan, I'm curious about your yoga practice. Do you have preferred styles of yoga or poses? Do the other Peaches like to practice? And I'll just say, old joke, I don't have to practice. I'm very good at it. But Dan, what about you?
I honestly don't know enough about the like nitty gritty of it to like say what the style is. Like my style is I go to the local yoga place. I haven't done it while I've been sick. I'm getting back to it next week. But I just go there 3 times a week in the morning and do what I'm told. So I don't know. It's not hot yoga. I hate
That's what I do.
Likes it. Every time it gets too hot in the thing, I'm like, could someone please put the fans on? I'm gonna pass
It's just
out.
yoga while you're watching Hot in Cleveland?
Yeah. Yeah, like once a week to supplement my weightlifting, I go to hot yoga, and I always end up getting a spot right by the window, so it's extra hot, because if I'm gonna go, I want it to be extra hot. And yeah, I just sweat all over the place. It's crazy. And it's kind of like a vinyasa, so it's relatively quick moving between poses.
Okay, that's yoga. So here's another question, because I'm not interested in that anymore. This is asked by...
I'll send you some videos.
That's okay. I don't need that. Asked by Rachel, are there any knockoffs of hit films that actually work for you? This is a good question that I wish we had more time to research, because I bet there are. I bet there are movies that are, yep.
I mean, the first one that comes to my mind probably is like Piranha, the Joe Dante directed, Roger Corman produced Jaws knockoff, but with a lot of small bitey fish instead of one big bitey fish.
It's the classic question: would you rather fight one big bitey fish or a lot of small bitey fishes? Yeah.
Yeah, if you get me drunk enough, we'll have that conversation, I'm sure.
Other than that, there are plenty of movies that are knockoffs of like. I feel like when the Universal monster movies were big, like there were there are movies that want to be like that. But I'm having trouble thinking of any that come to mind, specific ones where I'm like, yeah, definitely that one.
This doesn't completely answer the question, but I find that I really love movies that are inspired by giallo as opposed to actual giallos. I don't know.
There are a couple of like fun Star Wars knockoffs of the period too. Like I can't remember whether it's Battle Beyond the Stars that I like or a different one. So. What?
Yeah, Dan, you like that Rebel Moon movie, right?
Yeah. Stay tuned.
I mean, Star Crash is a bad movie, but that's a very fun bad movie.
I think
that's a fun, ridiculous bad movie, and especially when you're like, oh yeah, one of the actors in this was also a child evangelist. Is a strange thing. But anyway, let's go. This will be the
Space Jail. Yeah, that's a good one.
Space Jail's a great one.
Lockdown.
Lockout.
Is that what it's really called?
Lockout. Yeah. Space Jail's such a better name for that movie. I don't know why. But is that a Star Wars knockoff?
It's a knockoff of Escape from New York.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But it's like Escape from Space.
I feel like the whole like vein of Die Hard on a Blank was that was good. There was good stuff.
Yeah. Under Siege is a pretty fun one along those lines. Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially Speed too. Is basically one of those, right?
Cruise Control.
Not Speed 2. I meant Speed. Also, Speed 2 is a knockoff of Speed. Okay, and this will be the final question of the season. Wow! Thanks so much for everybody for being here. This was a great time, and it really means a lot to us that you joined us for this show. Which character from this season of Flop TV have you most identified with? This is asked by Jeffrey. Of all the characters in the movies we watched, and to remind everybody, those movies were Beastmaster 2, Through the Portal of Time, Cool World, Hot Dog the Movie, Hamburger the Motion Picture, X vs. Sever. Again, I keep forgetting that it exists. Ballistic X vs. Sever. And of course, Nukie. Which character did you most identify with?
It's super easy for me. You know it. It's got to be Gabriel Byrne in Cool World. He risked it all.
He risked it all.
Down bad. He had the drawer.
Just for a chance. And one of them delicious tunes.
He's just bad at looking at recognizing red flags. Is what I'm saying.
I feel like, Stuart, you are partly Gabriel Byrne in Cool World and partly Nails, the cigar smoking spider sidekick in Cool World. It's a little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
I wish there was someone who like hung out with Ursa in Beastmaster too. I forget her character's name.
So you're inventing a character to identify with?
Well, I don't like identify with her. I just want to like be around her and just like hang out. You know?
Okay. I think part of me identifies with the son in Over the Top. You know, like, gotta reconnect with my dad. I don't feel like the most physically intimidating person, so I've got to learn how to arm wrestle random punks in roadhouses, road stops. But also, part of me is probably, and I hate to say it, the nerdy guy who's turning into a chicken from Hamburger the Motion Picture, because he just cares so much about chicken, you know?
Yeah. Chicken. So now's the part where we wrap up the season by saying either something. Usually we say something that we learned from Nukie. We can still do that, or if you've got something you've learned from the season of Flop TV, I'll allow that as well.
Thanks, Judge McCoy.
Lessons learned.
This is so. I gotta say, one of the things that I really enjoyed about watching Nukie is that it made me feel like I was closer to my friend Elliot. Like, I feel like I know you better now, buddy.
Thanks, I appreciate it. It's like you strange dazed me, where you were able to watch through my experience. Yeah,
it was really great. It felt great, strange dazing you.
Yeah, on that chimp's experience, or I guess it was a baboon, I think. I would say that the lesson learned is, you know, be nice to an alien, even if it's snotty, and then maybe you get to transcend into a being of pure light.
Very specific lesson, but that's a good lesson to learn. I think my lesson is that, based on the way that Dr. Eric Harvey is talked about at his office, the less you show up, the better people think of you. Like, he is a hero or a god to them. He is never at the office. They've got to call him in the middle of his hookups. Like, he's not around. He's not easy to get a hold of, and yet they love him. So just don't show up to work, and you're going to be the star.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for.
And I also learned I hate Nukie.
Oh, yeah.
Does that
count? Before we go, an extra special thanks again to Matt Carmen for doing all the tech work for the season of Flop TV, the man who discovered side boob and shared it with the world. And
that's why they gave him the Nobel, right?
Yeah. And thank you all for being here. We hope to see you again, probably in the fall. But for now, for the Flophouse, I've been Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
Thanks so much for being here with us, everybody. We love you. I'm Ellie Kalin. Bye.